Come with me. I need you tonight. Those 6 words changed my entire life. When my best friend's billionaire sister whispered them at his wedding reception, I had a choice. Stay safe in my small, predictable world, or follow her into the garden and risk everything. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 27 years old, and I've been a freelance event photographer for about 5 years now. It's not a glamorous life. Most nights, I'm hunched over my laptop editing photos until 3 in the morning, surviving on instant ramen and too much coffee. My studio apartment in Brooklyn is small. My car is old. And my bank account is usually hovering somewhere between concerning and terrifying. But I love what I do. There's something magical about freezing a moment in time, about capturing the way someone's eyes light up when they laugh, or the tender way a couple looks at each other when they think no one's watching. Photography isn't just my job. It's how I see the world. Today, though, I wasn't thinking about photography. I was thinking about her. The venue was absolutely breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls, catching the afternoon light and scattering it across the room in 1,000 tiny rainbows. White roses were everywhere on tables, in tall vases, woven into garlands that draped along the walls. The whole place smelled like flowers and expensive perfume. I adjusted the camera strap around my neck and took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. I was here to work, I reminded myself, to photograph my best friend's wedding, not to spend the entire day stealing glances at a woman I could never have. James Bennett was getting married today. James had been my best friend since college. We'd stayed up late studying together, gone on random road trips, sung terrible karaoke, and laughed until our stomachs hurt. He'd been there for me through everything. When my mom got sick, when I decided to quit my stable office job to pursue photography full-time, when I couldn't make rent and was too proud to ask for help, James was family. So when he asked me to photograph his wedding, I said yes immediately, even though it meant spending an entire day in the same space as her. Alexandra Bennett. I'd met Alex 3 years ago at James's graduation party. I remembered that night so clearly it sometimes felt like it had happened yesterday. She'd arrived late, wearing a perfectly tailored black suit that probably cost more than I made in 6 months. Her dark hair had been pulled back, and when she'd walked into the room, it was like the air itself had changed. People noticed her. How could they not? Alex owned a global fashion empire called Bennett Couture. I'd Googled her once, okay? Maybe more than once, and found articles in Forbes listing her as one of the most powerful women under 40. She had offices in New York, Paris, Milan, and Tokyo. She flew around the world for fashion shows and business meetings. She lived in a completely different universe than I did. And yet, that night at the graduation party, we'd ended up talking, just the two of us, out on the balcony while the party continued inside. We'd talked about art, about photography, about how she'd always wanted to paint but never had the time. Her voice had been lower than I expected, smooth and rich, and it had made something in my chest tighten. I'd thought about that conversation for months afterward, then years, and the feelings I'd tried so hard to ignore had only grown stronger. But what was I supposed to do? Tell her? Confess that I, a broke photographer who ate cereal for dinner and had a car that made weird noises, had feelings for a literal billionaire? It was laughable. It was impossible. So I did what I always did. I kept my feelings locked away and tried to act normal whenever she was around. Today was going to be a test of my self-control. I arrived at the venue early that morning to scout locations and set up my equipment. The estate was in upstate New York, all rolling hills and manicured gardens with a lake that looked like a painting. It was the kind of place where wealthy people got married, where everything was perfect and beautiful and expensive. I was adjusting my camera settings near the terrace when I saw her. Alex stood by the stone railing, talking on her phone. She wore a sleek black dress that fit her perfectly, and her dark hair was down today, falling in soft waves past her shoulders. The morning sunlight caught in her hair, making it shine. My heart did that stupid thing it always did when I saw her. It stuttered, skipped, then started racing like I'd just run a marathon. I forced myself to look away and focus on my equipment. Aperture, shutter speed, ISO, technical details I could control, unlike the way my body reacted to her presence. Emily! I turned to find James walking toward me, grinning from ear to ear. He looked happy. Nervous, but happy. Hey! I hugged him. How are you feeling? Terrified, he admitted with a laugh. But good. Really good. Sophie's amazing, and I can't wait to marry her. She's lucky to have you, I said, and I meant it. James glanced over at his sister, then back at me with a strange expression. You know, Alex asked about you yesterday. My stomach flipped. She did? Yeah. Asked if you were doing okay, if your photography business was going well. He studied my face. She's always asking about you, actually. I think she likes you. I forced a casual laugh. We've talked a few times. She's nice. She doesn't usually ask about my friends, James said thoughtfully. But with you, she always wants to know how you're doing. Before I could figure out how to respond to that without giving myself away, Sophie appeared, looking beautiful and slightly panicked about some detail with the flowers. James excused himself, and I was left alone with my racing thoughts. Alex had asked about me? What did that mean? Probably nothing. She was just being polite. That's what successful, wealthy people did. They made polite conversation about other people's lives while living their own extraordinary ones. The ceremony started at 4 in the afternoon. Golden hour, the perfect time for photography. The light was soft and warm, making everything look like it belonged in a dream. I moved through the crowd quietly, doing what I did best. I captured the flower girl giggling as she scattered petals down the aisle. I photographed the father of the bride wiping tears from his eyes. I zoomed in on James's face as Sophie walked toward him, and I saw nothing but pure love there. And then I photographed Alex. She sat in the front row, posture perfect, expression unreadable. She looked elegant and untouchable, like a marble statue in a museum. But I noticed something through my lens, something I might have missed otherwise. Every few minutes, her eyes would drift. Not toward the altar where her brother was getting married. Toward me. At first, I thought I was imagining it. The romantic atmosphere was getting to me, making me see things that weren't there. But it kept happening. Our eyes would meet for just a split second before she looked away, and each time it happened, my hands trembled slightly as I adjusted my camera. What was happening? The reception was even more beautiful than the ceremony. A live jazz band played in the corner of the ballroom. Waiters in crisp white uniforms carried trays of champagne. Candlelight reflected off crystal glasses, and everything glowed with warmth and celebration. I was by the dessert table, checking the photos on my camera display, when I felt someone approach. I smelled her perfume first. Something subtle and expensive, bergamot and jasmine, if I had to guess. My entire body went on alert. I looked up. Alex stood inches away from me, holding a glass of champagne. Her green eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made it hard to breathe. She leaned in close. Too close. Close enough that I could see the gold flecks in her irises. Close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her body. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut through all the noise around us like a knife. "Come with me," she said. "I need you tonight." The music kept playing. People kept laughing and dancing. But everything around me blurred into background noise. Those 6 words echoed in my head like a drumbeat. I need you tonight. What did that even mean? Need me for what? My brain scrambled for logical explanations. Maybe she wanted me to take photos of something specific. Maybe there was a problem with... But the way she was looking at me told me this had nothing to do with photography. My mouth went dry. I tried to form words, but nothing came out. Alex didn't wait for an answer. She simply turned and started walking toward the garden exit, her black dress flowing behind her like water. And I stood there like an idiot, camera in hand, heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. Every logical part of my brain screamed at me to stay put. She's your best friend's sister. She's a billionaire. She's so far out of your league, it's not even funny. This is a terrible idea, but my feet were already moving. I followed her through the ballroom, past the jazz band, past the dancing couples, out onto the terrace where the evening air was cool and smelled like roses and fresh-cut grass. Alex didn't look back. She just kept walking, her heels clicking against the stone path, leading me deeper into the garden, away from the lights and the music and the celebration, leading me somewhere I knew I shouldn't go, but I went anyway. Because sometimes, when someone who's been living in your dreams for 3 years asks you to follow them, you don't ask questions. You just follow. The garden behind the venue looked like something out of a fairy tale. Stone pathways wound between blooming hydrangeas and rose bushes. Tiny white lights hung from tree branches, casting everything in a soft, dreamlike glow. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear a fountain bubbling, the sound mixing with the faint music still drifting from the reception. Alex finally stopped walking. She stood by a wrought iron bench, her back to me, shoulders tense. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The only sounds were the distant music, the fountain, and my own heartbeat pounding so loudly in my ears I was sure she could hear it. I clutched my camera like it was a lifeline, something solid to hold on to in a moment that felt increasingly surreal. "Alex," I started, my voice shaky. "What?" She turned around slowly. The fairy lights caught her face, illuminating her features. God, she was beautiful. But there was something else in her expression tonight, something I'd never seen before, something vulnerable. She reached into a small silver case and pulled out a cigarette, lighting it with a practiced motion. The flame illuminated her face for a brief second before disappearing into the darkness. I didn't even know she smoked. She took a long drag, exhaled, and watched the smoke curl into the night air. Then her eyes found mine. "You think I don't notice?" she asked quietly. My stomach dropped. "Notice what?" "The way you look at me." Oh God. Heat rushed to my face. I felt exposed, caught, like she'd just reached into my chest and pulled out every secret I'd been keeping for 3 years. I don't," I stammered. "Don't lie to me, Emily." Her voice wasn't angry. It was almost sad. I swallowed hard. My throat felt like sandpaper. "You're my best friend's sister. I would never." "Never what?" She took a step closer. "Never admit what I feel," I whispered. The air between us felt electric, charged with something I didn't have a name for. My hands were shaking so badly I had to grip my camera tighter to keep from dropping it. Alex shook her head slowly. "You think you're the only one who's been hiding something?" My brain couldn't process what I was hearing. This didn't make sense. People like Alex didn't notice people like me. We existed in completely different universes. "I don't believe you," I whispered. She laughed softly. It wasn't a happy sound. "Of course you don't!" She crushed the cigarette under her heel and closed the distance between us. We were standing so close now that I could feel the warmth radiating from her body, could see the way her chest rose and fell with each breath. "Do you know how exhausting it is?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Pretending I don't see you every time James talks about you? Pretending I don't look for you in every room I walk into?" My hands trembled. I gripped my camera tighter, needing something solid, something real to hold on to, because this moment felt like a dream I might wake up from at any second. "Why now?" I managed to ask. "Why tell me this now?" "Because I'm tired of pretending." Her eyes searched mine. "And because tonight, watching you move through that crowd with your camera, capturing all those beautiful moments, I realized I'm tired of watching my own life from a distance. I want to be in it. I want to feel something real." "And you think," my voice cracked, "you think I'm real. I think you're the most real thing I've encountered in years." My chest ached. This couldn't be happening. This had to be some kind of elaborate dream. Or maybe I'd passed out from the heat and was currently lying on the ground somewhere while my brain manufactured this entire scenario. But then Alex's hand reached up and touched my cheek. Her palm was warm, her fingers gentle as they traced my jawline. That touch was real. The way my skin tingled where she touched me was real. "You're shaking," she observed softly. "I'm terrified," I admitted. "Of what? Of this? Of me? Of what happens if we stop pretending?" She leaned in closer. Her breath smelled like champagne and something sweet. "Maybe you should stop thinking about what you can't do, Emily, and start thinking about what you want." What did I want? I wanted to stop feeling like I was standing on the edge of a cliff. I wanted to stop analyzing every word she said, every gesture, every look. I wanted to stop being afraid. I wanted her. My voice cracked. "I don't know if I can do this." "Do what?" "Be what you need." I don't live in your world, Alex. I don't go to galas or fly to Paris for Fashion Week. I eat cereal for dinner, and my apartment has a leaky faucet I can't afford to fix. You deserve someone. Stop. Her voice was firm now, cutting through my spiral of self-doubt. Stop telling me what I deserve. I'm standing here in front of you, telling you what I want. Can you just for once believe that? Tears pricked my eyes. I didn't know why I was crying. Relief? Fear? The overwhelming weight of 3 years of hidden feelings suddenly coming to the surface? All of the above? "I've been in love with you for 3 years, I confessed, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. And I convinced myself it was impossible, that you'd never— She kissed me, just like that. No warning. Her lips pressed against mine, soft and sure and tasting like champagne. My camera slipped from my hands, landing on the grass with a soft thud. I didn't care. My hands found her waist, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, slow and exploratory, like we were both discovering something we'd been searching for our entire lives. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard. "Was that real enough for you?" she whispered against my lips. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. She smiled. Actually smiled. A real one this time, not the polite, controlled smile she wore at business events. This smile reached her eyes, made them light up in a way that took my breath away. "Good," she said softly. Behind us, the reception continued. Music drifted through the garden. People laughed and danced and celebrated love. And here, hidden among the hydrangeas and fairy lights, I stood in the arms of the woman I'd loved from a distance for years, my best friend's billionaire sister, who apparently loved me back. We stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. My mind raced with 1,000 questions. What did this mean? What happened next? Did she want a relationship? A secret affair? One night? God, I didn't even know what I wanted anymore. 10 minutes ago, I was convinced this was impossible. Now she was looking at me like I was something precious, something worth holding on to. "We should go back," Alex said finally, though her hand was still resting on my waist. "People will notice we're gone." Reality crashed back in like a bucket of cold water. "Right," I breathed. "The wedding. James. Oh my God, James." Alex's expression shifted slightly. "What about him? He's my best friend. And you're his sister. If he finds out what? That we kissed? That we—" She gestured helplessly between us. "Whatever this is," she stepped back, creating space between us. The loss of her warmth felt immediate and painful. I could see her walls going back up, could see it happening in real time. "You're right," she said, her voice returning to that controlled, businesslike tone I'd heard her use at corporate events. "This was a mistake. Wait. No, I shouldn't have." She ran a hand through her hair, messing up the perfect waves. "I wasn't thinking clearly. Too much champagne. The wedding atmosphere. I apologize for putting you in this position." My heart cracked. Just like that, she was pulling away, retreating back into her fortress of composure and control. Don't do that, I said. Do what? Pretend like what just happened meant nothing. Her jaw tightened. Emily, you said you were tired of pretending. You said I was real. Were you lying? Of course I wasn't lying. Her voice rose slightly before she caught herself and lowered it again. But it's complicated. Why? Because. She threw her hands up in frustration. Because you're 27 years old with your whole life ahead of you. Because I'm 33 and drowning in responsibilities. Because I live in boardrooms and you live behind a camera. Because my brother is your best friend. And if this goes wrong, you're already assuming it'll go wrong. I interrupted. Most things do. The sadness in her voice hit me like a punch to the gut. Is that what you really believe? I asked softly. That nothing good can last? She looked away, staring at the fountain in the distance. I believe that people like me don't get fairy tale endings. We get mergers and acquisitions and strategic partnerships. We get marriages arranged for business reasons and relationships that look good in photographs. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. She laughed bitterly. Welcome to my world. I bent down and picked up my camera from the grass, brushing off the dirt. My hands were steadier now. Funny how heartbreak has a way of bringing clarity. You know what I think? I said. I think you're scared. Her eyes snapped back to me. Excuse me? You're scared. And you're using all these excuses, our age difference. Your job, James, to justify running away from something that might actually make you happy. You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? I took a step toward her. You said I was real, that I was the most real thing you'd encountered in years. Was that true or not? She didn't answer. Because if it was true, then yeah, it's going to be complicated. It's going to be scary. James might be upset at first. Your business associates might judge you. But none of that changes how you feel. And none of that changes how I feel. And how do you feel? She asked quietly. Terrified, I admitted. Completely and utterly terrified. Because you could break my heart into 1,000,000 pieces and I'd probably thank you for the privilege. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe and miserable without you. Silence stretched between us. The music from the reception changed to a slow song, something romantic and aching. I don't know how to do this, Alex finally said. Her voice cracked slightly. I don't know how to be vulnerable. Open all the things you probably need. Then learn. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. I closed the remaining distance between us. You said you wanted something real. Real is messy. Real is complicated. Real means showing up even when you're scared. She looked at me with those devastating green eyes. What if I hurt you? What if you don't? A long pause. Then, you're very persistent, aren't you? When it comes to things I want. Yeah, I am. The corner of her mouth twitched. Almost a smile. I noticed that about you. That first night we met at James's graduation. You asked me about my work. Really asked not the surface-level questions people usually throw at me. You wanted to understand. Because you were interesting. You are interesting. Most people find me intimidating. You are intimidating, I smiled. But also human. And I like the human parts best. She shook her head. But she was smiling now, too. A real one. You're going to be the death of me, Emily Carter. Is that a yes? A yes to what? Exactly? To trying. To seeing where this goes. To not running away the second things get difficult. She studied me for a long moment. I could see the internal battle playing out behind her eyes. Fear versus hope. Control versus surrender. Finally, she sighed. One condition. What? We take this slow. We figure out how to tell James together. And if at any point you decide this is too much my schedule, my world, the media attention you tell me, no guilt, no obligation. Deal. I mean it, Emily. I won't trap you in something that makes you unhappy. The only thing that would make me unhappy is losing you before we even start. She reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The gesture was so tender it made my chest ache. "We should really go back now," she murmured. Yeah, neither of us moved. Then she smiled that real, beautiful smile that I was quickly becoming addicted to and took my hand. "Come on," she said. "Before someone sends out a search party." We walked back toward the reception together, hand in hand, hidden by the darkness of the garden. Just before we reached the lights and the music and the people, she stopped and turned to me. "Emily?" "Yeah?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For being brave when I couldn't be." She squeezed my hand. "For seeing me." I squeezed back. "Always." We did eventually make it back to the reception separately, of course. Alex went first, and I waited 5 minutes before following, trying to look like I'd just been out photographing the gardens and not having a life-altering conversation with the host's sister. The rest of the evening passed in a strange blur. I focused on my work, capturing the cake cutting, the first dance, the toasts, but I was hyper-aware of Alex's presence. Every time I turned around, she was there talking to relatives, laughing at someone's joke, looking effortlessly elegant and completely untouchable again. Except now I knew the truth. She wasn't untouchable. She was just very, very good at pretending. And every so often, when she thought no one was looking, her eyes would find mine across the room, just for a second, just long enough for me to see that small, secret smile, just long enough to remind me that what happened in the garden was real. Around 11 o'clock, guests started leaving. James and Sophie departed in a vintage car decorated with tin cans and a "Just Married" sign, heading to their hotel before their honeymoon flight in the morning. I stayed behind to pack up my equipment tripod, lighting stands, camera bags. The venue staff was already breaking down tables and collecting centerpieces. I was carrying a box of gear to my car when I heard footsteps behind me. "Let me help with that." Alex appeared beside me, reaching for the box. "You don't have to." "I want to." We loaded my equipment in silence. The parking lot was nearly empty now, just a few cars scattered under flickering street lamps. "Where are you parked?" I asked. She pointed to a sleek black Mercedes at the far end of the lot. "Of course," I said with a small smile. "I can drive you home," she offered. "You must be exhausted. My apartment is 40 minutes away." "So?" "So that's an hour and 20 minutes of driving for you. Round trip." She smiled. "I'm aware of how time works, Emily. Don't you have an early meeting tomorrow or something?" "Nothing I can't reschedule." Something warm bloomed in my chest. "You'd reschedule a meeting for me?" "I'd reschedule a lot of things for you." The drive started in comfortable silence. Alex's car smelled like leather, and that same subtle perfume. Classical music played softly from the speakers, Chopin, I think. We hit the highway, city lights glittering in the distance. I watched them blur past, processing everything that had happened tonight. "Can I ask you something?" I said finally. "Of course." When did you first know that you felt something for me?" She was quiet for a moment, eyes on the road. Then, James's birthday party, 2 years ago. I remembered that party. It was at his apartment casual, just pizza and beer. Nothing fancy. "What happened at James's birthday party?" "You were telling a story about a wedding you'd photographed. The bride's grandmother had crashed the ceremony on a motorcycle because she'd missed her flight." Alex's lips curved into a smile at the memory. "You were so animated, using your hands, doing voices. Everyone was laughing. And I couldn't stop looking at you. The way you lit up when you talked about your work. The way you made everyone around you feel comfortable and happy." My throat felt tight. I had no idea you were even paying attention to me. "I'm always paying attention to you, that's the problem." "Why is that a problem?" "Because it makes it very hard to focus on anything else." We exited the highway and wound through quieter streets. Trees lined the road, their branches creating shadows in the headlights. "Are you really going to reschedule your meeting?" I asked. "Already done. I texted my assistant while you were loading the car." "Alex, stop. I want to do this." She glanced at me briefly before returning her eyes to the road. Do you know how long it's been since I did something just because I wanted to? Not because it was strategic or necessary or expected? How long? I honestly can't remember. The sadness in her voice made me want to reach over and hold her hand. So I did. She looked down at our intertwined fingers, surprise flashing across her face. Then she smiled soft and real. Is this okay? I asked. More than okay. We drove like that for a while, hand in hand. No need to fill the silence with words. We pulled up outside my building, a modest 5-story walk-up in a neighborhood that definitely didn't see many Mercedes. I gathered my camera bag and reached for the door handle. Emily. I turned back. Yeah? She looked nervous. Actually nervous. Like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. She paused. Do you want me to walk you up? My apartment was on the 4th floor. No elevator. And it was after midnight. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. But do you want me to? The vulnerability in her eyes made the decision easy. Yes, I said. I do. So that's how it started. That's the night everything changed for me. If you're sitting there wondering what happened next, trust me. I wondered the same thing that night. My heart was racing, my mind was spinning, and I had no idea if I'd just made the best decision of my life or the most complicated one. If this story touched something in your heart, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe to Love Beyond Rules. It really helps us share more stories like mine. And here's what I want to know. Have you ever loved someone you thought you could never have? Someone so far out of your reach that even hoping felt dangerous? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And honestly, knowing I'm not alone in this makes all the difference. If you want to know what happened when Alex walked me up to my apartment that night, and how we figured out this impossible, beautiful thing between us, let me know. I'll tell you everything. Until next time, remember what Alex taught me. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop pretending and let yourself feel. I'm Emily, and this is my story.